Okay, so in this part of the video we are going to be looking at not specifically widgets, but we're going to be looking at the logged in widget, and also we're going to be creating a widget that allows us to tell anyone that's visiting the site how many users are currently registered on the website. And this won't include users that are inactive, so any users that have an inactive account will not be included, because we could have several registrations that don't that haven't been activated. Therefore we don't want to include them in the check, but we're going to look at just building up some of the links inside loggedin.php, and this will form the overall navigation for our user. So anywhere that they want to go, whether it's to change settings like their password, log out, anything like that, check private messages, will go in here. So let's do that quickly now, because it's relatively straightforward. It's just it's very straightforward. It's just an unordered list with some list items within it. So I'll go ahead and just we're only doing two for now, one of which we haven't created, which will be the change password page, which we'll do we'll get to when we get to it. The first one is going to be to log out. Now you'll remember we've already actually created the logout code, or the logout file. It basically just consists of starting a session, destroying, and then redirecting back to the index page. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go ahead and create an anchor tag, so essentially a link, and I'll just here say logout, or space will do. And we're just linking to logout.php, and that's it really. When I go ahead and refresh, I'm not logged in. Let me just log myself in. There we go. So I've got this logout link, and when I click on it, I'm logged out. Relatively straightforward. I'll also go ahead and just replicate what I've done here, but I'll add a link to changepassword.php, which we haven't created yet. As I said, we'll get to, but we'll just fill up the navigation. It will sort of give us a to-do list. So change password, keep that small p. Okay, so let's go ahead and just log in and make sure that's displaying properly. I can't see any reason why it wouldn't. Brilliant. Okay, so this will go to change password, which isn't found at the moment, and logout will log us out of our account. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and log out. We're going to create a new widget now, and this is going to show us, like I said at the start of the tutorial, how many users are currently registered. This doesn't include users that are logged in, but we'll get to that at some point later on. So let's go ahead and create a new file, and I'm going to call this user. Let's say user_count.php. So user_count.php. And this is going to take the same structure as this widget. So essentially I'm just going to copy this and paste it in here. So we've got the class, the outer class of widget, the header, and the inner div, and that's all we need. So we can remove everything in here. So this is the formation of our widget: our outer container, our header, and then our inner class, or an inner container. So let's just go ahead and sort of create the skeleton of this widget. We'll go ahead and create what we want to say, but we'll emit the actual value. So I'm just going to say, I don't know what to call it. Let's just say users. And I'll say we currently have X registered users. Okay, so X is going to be replaced with a value. We're essentially going to obtain a value, which will be a return value from a function. So we'll be using a function to return a specific value, and we'll be echoing out this here. Remember, user count is a widget included as part of our aside. So if I go over to aside now, you'll see we've got aside. If logged in equals true, then display our logged in widget. Otherwise, display login widget. So we already know about that. However, we're not including our. So we need to go ahead and include this file. So obviously we display this. So let's go ahead and do that just under here, and let's go ahead and include user count.php. We'll obviously need to go. It needs to be within the includes widget directory. So we've done that now. Let's go ahead and refresh, and oh, okay, so let's check what might have gone wrong here. So includes That's widgets. That's fine. Refresh. Okay, so now we have this widget users, and we currently have X registered users. So what we need to do now is go ahead and create the function that's going to return the user count. So let's go ahead and do that now. We need to open up our within our core directory, within our functions, we need to open up users. This could go in general, but I think it's probably better suited to users because it deals with data directly relating to users. So I'm going to say function user underscore count, or you could say something like total users, anything like that. We're obviously going to be returning a value, so we can do this all on one line. So we can return a MySQL result. Within here, we obviously need to supply a query and then the row that we want to retrieve this count from. So let's go ahead and say MySQL query, and the second argument will just pass a 0. So within here, we want to use the MySQL count function to return a count based on the user ID field of all of the users. Now at the moment there's only one, which is me, so it will obviously return 1, but in a moment we'll go ahead and we'll create another account, and we'll see that this will change to 2. So I want to select, and we're using the MySQL count function, and we're counting by user ID. We could count by like star or something, but it's probably always good to use a field. And we're obviously fetching this from the users table, and we need our condition in here now because we want to say where the active state is equal to 1. We don't want any users with the active state equal to 0 to be counted within this check. So I'm going to say where active equals 1. Okay, so that's it. Now we're returning this number, so let's go ahead and test this out. So within my userCount.php file, I'm going to go ahead and break into PHP where this X currently was, or currently I've just replaced, and I'm going to echo the result of the userCount function. So remember, we're returning a value from this function, we're not echoing it out. So echo user count, and let's go ahead and refresh, and you see we currently have 1 registered users. Now we've got this problem here where we've got users, but we can solve that in just a moment. I hadn't planned on doing so, but we can go ahead and do this. Okay, so first of all, let's go ahead and create another account and obviously see how this changes. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Insert tab. Let's go ahead and create a new user account. So I'm going to just choose the name Billy. We will apply the MD5 function to this password. First name we'll say Billy, and then we'll say Garrett. Email we'll just make up, so billy@phpacademy.org. And active I'm going to set to 0. Let's go ahead and submit this, and when I refresh, you see we have 1 registered users. That's obviously, you know, the result we were expecting, because we've got the active state for this user set to 0. So let's go ahead and edit that and change that to 1. Click go, come back to our site and refresh, and you see this changes to 2. Now obviously the suffix on the end of this word, the users, is correct in this case because it's more than 1. So what we want to do is we want to create a condition that you know allows us to either insert the S or not. So you know, this isn't entirely necessary. It depends on how you're wording it, but I'll go ahead and do this now. So I'm going to say suffix equals, and then in brackets here is going to be my condition. After this is going to be a string, otherwise another string. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say up here I'm going to create a variable called user count, and this is going to be equal to the result of this function. And that means we can use this variable in this condition to determine whether to put an S on the end, and then we can just go ahead and echo out user count here. So I'm going to say if user underscore count doesn't equal we could say doesn't equal 1. So if it doesn't equal 1, we can add an S on the end. Otherwise we just keep this as a blank string. So as far as that goes, that's not really done anything because we're not actually doing anything with this suffix, we're not outputting anything. So I'm going to get rid of the S and I'm going to break into PHP. Remember, with no space here because we just want it to echo out. And I'm going to echo suffix. And it's as straightforward as that. When I refresh now, you see that we've still got the S on the end here. And that's obviously to be expected. However, if I go ahead and I set this to 0, click go, come back and refresh, you see that this has changed to 1 and the S has disappeared. So this is a really neat, not trick, but a really neat method of detecting whether an S should be on the end of a word. Okay. So in this part of the tutorial, we've dealt with the user count and, more importantly, just added some links into our logged in include here. So in the next part, we're going to be dealing with something that's a lot more complex, but if done in the correct way, is going to be a lot easier to maintain, and that is the registration page. And we're not going to do this as in static fields. We're going to do this slightly more interestingly. So I'll see you in the next part.